Some things never change. War is one of those things. War requires courage and discipline. Most importantly, it requires sacrifice. Make no mistake, my friends, we are now at war, and sacrifices are going to be required for our survival. Our last remaining nuclear bomb seemed to destroy the majority of the infected forces, but also killed our Spartan Don. After his heroic sacrifice, Napoleon then led the army to take out the remaining infected forces. There were still quite a few of them left, but luckily for us, the largest, the fastest, and the strongest seemed to have been killed by the nuclear bomb, which was mighty convenient because I didn't feel like having to fistfight some of those massive black titans or the hell dog creature things. So we began moving all throughout our base, killing the remaining rumblers, I believe they're called, that had made it inside. After that was all said and done, believe it or not, we had plenty of fires that had spun up from the nuclear blast, just as well from other electronics that had been destroyed. So we had to start beating out the fires. Luckily, our other Spartan, Taylor, was not dead, though she was very badly injured. We scooped her up and put her in a bed, that way we could finally begin patching her up to ensure that she doesn't die. As one might imagine, the massive infected raid and the giant nuclear bomb that went off in the front of our base caused a teeny tiny bit of damage. So our army of cold-blooded killing clones had to turn into a little bit of an army of architects. Not only that, but many of them also had to become a bit of an army of custodians because we had a massive mess to clean up with all these rotting infected corpses. Lucky for us though, you couldn't smell the stench through our helmets. New car smell. Thankfully, after some time as well, the flare that was caused by the Void Raid ended, but it would still take a while before the toxic fallout would go away. That wasn't too big of an issue for us because we had a beautiful base still on the inside, and besides, the worst part of it was just a little bit of shitty green air. We started mining out some resources from some nearby hills because we were running a little bit low on normal steel. We have been, and still are, using a lot of steel for our defenses. Now, I know what you're saying, why not use plasteel? You have so much of it. Well, that plasteel is a secret tool that we're going to use later. I don't want to ruin any surprises. You may notice though the new barriers that we're building are quite a bit better than the barricades. They actually have a cover effectiveness of 65%. And our barricades are going to keep us safe. Safe enough that we can sit around and watch television. You know, speaking of television, I always wondered what was on these TVs here in RimWorld. That's so strange. What are you guys watching? Thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. Oh wow, now these seem like some quality products and services. Look, I'm going to be real with you, I use Surfshark VPN to protect my data. Being out here in the rim of the universe, there are several galactic factions who are always trying to steal my grand ideas. I mean, God forbid they wind it up in the hands of Void. Look, their amazing VPN keeps me secure while I'm on some sketchy outer planet Wi-Fi. It's kinda like a secure Stargate between devices and the internet. Truly amazing. It also allows you to change your location, so while you're browsing, say, Netflix, you can access different shows and movies not available in your home country, which I must admit is pretty dang amazing. Enter promo code RATNIGHT for an extra 3 months free. The link is in the description down below. Once again, thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to the chaos. You know, by this point, I realized that Void had left a lot of implants and chemicals behind in this laboratory, and I started thinking, what would it be like if we used those on one of our soldiers? Better yet, what if we used these on Commander Napoleon, and instead of just giving him a few, we just kind of mixed them all up and just kind of shoved them right on him? Now, I'm not normally one to start using all these chemicals and whatnot, especially made by Void, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So we began installing some of the more interesting looking implants as well as giving him these serums. And now I know what you're thinking, Rat Knight, that could be dangerous. What if he dies? Well, now that is a valid question and a very good question as well. So we're going to shove him in this thing called a rebirth tank. That way, in case he does die, he'll be rebirthed. I mean, I assume that's what the rebirth chamber is for. Maybe that's how Void never dies, or when they do die, they come back to life. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Oh shit, it's Napoleon. He's looking a little bit different. Alright, look, I get it. He's ugly now, okay? I mean, just look at, oh god. But look, he's still the same good old commander that we know and love. As a matter of fact, thanks to all the serums, implants, and the rebirth chamber giving him this new infected body, he's actually much stronger, faster, and just better. But Jesus Christ, we need to find a bag or something to put over his head quick. You know, instead of a paper bag though, I think we should give him a proper set of armor that really goes with his new appearance. And that is why I have installed the mod for the Purge Trooper armor, which is very dark and red and looks really badass. I truly think it's the perfect set of attire for such a beautiful, strapping young lad. And now with his new massive manipulation stat, it didn't take very long for him to make the entire set of armor. We also ended up giving him another blaster, and I made it so that he could dual wield both of them because I thought it was cool. It also makes sense that he could dual wield them now since he's a big chunker. With his newfound body and armor, we are ready to take on Void. But there was one small little thing. A big chungus like this needs a big chungus ship to ride around in as well. So we built a massive ship known as an Albatross with a much higher crew capacity. We decided to launch our fleet of ships in search of uranium, and now we know one faction that's always got uranium, and that is Void. We arrived nearby, just on the outskirts of a Void fortress. Now this is not a laboratory, and the reason that that is key is I had no idea. Apparently the fortresses don't have uranium. And I wouldn't find out that little tiny bit of information after we slaughtered every single person within. But that was okay because we would have a hell of a time killing every single Void scientist and soldier. But make no mistake that this battle would be extremely difficult. As we approached the front of the building, they all came crashing out at us. Of course, we immediately began returning fire at them, but we had less soldiers this time around, and unfortunately Void would end up getting the better of a few of our men. Unfortunately, after it was all said and done with this battle, we had lost 3 of our brothers, 2 normal kid clones and 1 kid heavy. I wish I could say that their sacrifice was worth it, but it really wasn't. We didn't even find a drop of uranium. We went around the different sides of the base and began blasting holes through their walls to see what was within, and then we immediately just went through the front entrance because that was much easier. Now by this point we've already killed all of the Void soldiers and whatnot, so we just went around cleansing the base from any infected. And like I mentioned, when it was all said and done, we were -3 soldiers, our brothers, and still no damn uranium, so I don't know how we're going to build any bombs. But then an idea came to me. We have so much silver, why are we bothering attacking for uranium when we could just buy it from Outlander factions? So that's exactly what we began doing. They didn't have much per base, so we had to go to several different bases all around this section of the planet. Luckily, the Albatross had plenty of room for uranium as well as plenty of fuel, and by the time that we got home, we had a little bit more uranium than we had before. And we still had a lot of silver left over as well. Now we can finally get back to building some nuclear weapons. Sometime later though, we had a raid from our old friends the Federation. Oh, still as weak as ever, I see. Hey, wait a minute. What's that? Holy shit, the Federation are making their very own clones modeled after Napoleon and his soldiers. I suppose all the times that we kicked their ass, they must have somehow swiped a little bit of DNA off of us to make these soldiers after Napoleon. A little strange that they're all female, but hey, maybe the genetics got messed up or something. Regardless though, this was a fight that we were eager for. Finally, someone other than Void who can actually provide a challenge in battle, or so I initially thought. Immediately after firing at them, they all began dropping like flies. I suppose they must have got the DNA confused with some pansy-ass soldier who dies so easily. Oh, you poor, stupid little creatures. You're not even as good as a copy of the copy's copy. It was best we put them all out of their misery. At this point, we loaded up a fusion bomb to go and bomb a Void laboratory. However, it must be said that I did cheat just a tiny bit. So to create a fusion warhead, you actually need an anti-grain warhead, and unfortunately you can't craft those or purchase those, so I changed it a little bit. That way, instead of 1 anti-grain warhead, we could actually use 1000 plasteel. And look, I know it's technically cheating, but I could have just as easily added a mod that made anti-grain warheads craftable or purchasable. Maybe that was a better idea. Oh well. Anyhow though, we loaded up the bomb and made our way to the Void laboratory where we would then drop it. As it stands currently, fusion bombs are the strongest bombs that we have, but we are also dropping a few large nuclear warheads just as well, for a little added damage. The bombs went off and created such devastation. I believe they may have also hit some explosives that Void had within their buildings as well. We absolutely wrecked this base. I mean, it is a complete shit show now, but even so, after all that, we still had many Void soldiers who were still alive. Thankfully though, we were able to dispatch of them fairly easily. With their base left in ruins, with their soldiers and their scientists all dead, there was but one thing left for us to do, and that was go home. And though this was a monumentous victory for us, this was just the start. That was one fusion bomb and a lot of large nuclear warheads on one Void base. We still had a lot of work left to do. A special thanks to our patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are absolutely wonderful, and I love you ever so much, and I love all of you guys ever so much, and want to thank you so much for watching as well. If you guys would like to support me on Patreon, the link is in the video description as well as the channel bio, but I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, guys.